This is the 5-minute warning, so say hi to I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, everybody, please remain standing. Sister Kathleen O'Brien, the provincial coordinator of the School Sisters of St. Francis, will give our invocation.
Thanks, President Todd. Well, we're going to hear about Visit Milwaukee today. And I'm sure our speaker will say, it's one thing to get visitors, it's another thing to keep them here. So hospitality is our side of that equation. So I thought I'd look up something on hospitality, and I happened to find a quote by Patrick Henry, founding father of the American Revolution, who defined hospitality this way. Hospitality invites to prayer before it checks credentials. It welcomes to the table before administering the entrance exam. May we all practice revolutionary hospitality.
Thank you, Sister Kathleen. Before we begin, I'd just like to thank our sponsors, the logos that appeared on the presentation before the program. Thanks to all of you. If you are interested in having your company's logo as part of that presentation or would like to do a short video, please contact Mary in the Rotary office. I'd like to welcome our virtual audience. I'd also like to welcome all the guests we have in the room. When I call your name, if you could please stand to be recognized. We have Rodney Hill, Charlie James Lead Transportation Advisor. We've got Anne Marie Baumgartner from Secure Futures, Emily Phillips from Baird, Claire Koenig, Director of Communications at Visit Milwaukee, Mary Lou Sherpke from Town Bank. We have Kathy Brown, and we've got Deli Ojalabi here as well. So thank you, everybody, and welcome to our club. We also have a special welcome. So the Rotary Club of Milwaukee, we partner with other organizations in the Milwaukee area, other leadership organizations, as part of our commitment to connecting people and resources for a common good. One of those organizations is the African American Leadership Alliance of Milwaukee, a network of African American leaders and allies dedicated to developing, supporting, and positioning Milwaukee's pool of African American talent. We do have today Sherry Jordan, if you could just raise your hand to be recognized. Deputy Director of Milwaukee County, who is joining us for at least the rest of the year as part of the African American Leadership Alliance. So welcome to all of you. In a few minutes, we've got Peggy Williams-Smith, President and CEO of Visit Milwaukee, to give our presentation. But before that, we do have a couple announcements. Starting off, one of our favorite presenters, Dr. Bob Gleason, is going to come up and just give us a quick update on the state of COVID.
Thank you, President Todd. So how long or how many of these do you think I'm going to have to do before this damn thing is over? So right now we need to stay humble and be flexible and patient. There's a tremendous amount about this disease we do not know. It's way too early in the disease. Normally we'll get good information after about 5 years of studying a disease. So we have to be able to adjust and adapt to this changing discoveries in science as things come along. This is not a problem. This is just the way these diseases work. Number two, yes, the Delta variant is worrisome, especially among the unvaccinated. Still 90% of the people in the hospital and the ICU in the South, where they're having a raging epidemic or pandemic, are unvaccinated. On the good side, in India and the UK, cases rose for about 60 days and then leveled off and then began to decline. Nobody knows why. It just happened. And in the South, like in Florida and Alabama, the epidemic, the rise in cases now is about 60 days old. And interestingly, if you look at the New York Times, you're going to see some flattening. I mean, the curves used to go like this, and now they're starting to bend a little bit. They're not down yet, but it may be really interesting and make us feel a lot better if these big waves come, but they last a short period of time. Vaccines are not perfect. In particular, they're less effective in immune-compromised patients. Think people getting cancer chemotherapy or kidney transplants or some of the rheumatoid arthritis injections that people get. COVID vaccines are no exception. Breakthrough infections do occur. If you are vaccinated and do test positive for COVID, you do need to quarantine for 10 days after your test. And because you have as many viruses in you and you're breathing them out or coughing them out as an unvaccinated person. If you are vaccinated and you have been exposed to somebody who is positive, you can go to work, you can continue your life unless you're symptomatic, but you do need to get a test 3 to 5 days after your exposure. It takes that long for enough virus to grow to test positive. Number 5, the director of the NIH said this morning that he did not expect approval of vaccines for children under age 12, you've read this too, until late this year. So we need to continue to wear our masks to keep the immune compromised and the children safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Bob. I know we're all wading through uncharted waters, and your insights are incredibly helpful, I'm sure, to all of us. A couple additional announcements. Rotary International, the Rotary Club of Milwaukee, and our partners, Engineers Without Borders, have been working on a significant project in Guatemala. The World Community Service Committee is managing a $200,000 grant to improve the water system in a hospital in Esquitla, Guatemala. I had heard previous to the water system, patients actually had to bring in a couple gallons of fresh water before they actually were admitted to the hospital. And obviously, with COVID-19 and the variants, this project could not be more timely. September is actually a big month, brings us closer to our dream of having this water system completed on site. The well is dug, the water tower and the tank are in place, and I believe the pump is on its way to the site. So you can read more about it on the pamphlets on your table, as well as the links in a lot of our emails. Thanks to Chris Martinsek for creating the fifth in the series in the newsletter of the updates on this project, and to Jerry Stepaniak for your steadfast leadership in moving this project forward. Also heard that a group of Guatemalan alumni travelers gathered at the home of past District Governor Steen Sanderoff on Sunday for food, drink, and conversation. Just a great example of not only the good Rotary brings to the world, but the relationships and the friendships that do happen from us getting together and really making a difference. I'd like to welcome Dr. Scott Glidden, owner of Select Spine and Sport, who coordinates the Beer Connector Group, to join me at the podium, extend a brief invitation to everybody. Oh, and by the way, I'd like to congratulate Dr. Scott on his recent marriage to Haley. We wish both of you many happy years together.
Thank you, President Todd. So, for some of you that haven't been to the Beer Connector Group, it's a lot of fun. And we are meeting today at Furch's Craft Harvest at Mayfair and Blue Mounds. There's like 100 beers you can get there, all kinds of food. And I personally have 2 rules for the Beer Connector Group. 1, you can say what you do, where you do it. Outside of that, no shop talk. We're here to make friends. And 2, you can bring anybody that likes rule number 1. So I hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Scott. On Saturday, September 4th, if you're available, please join us in the garden at St. Anne Center for Intergenerational Care. We'll be harvesting a variety of fruits and vegetables from the raised garden beds, and then once that harvest is complete, moving on into the kitchen to make jam, prepare the food for freezing and pickling. A good time will be had by all. I'd like to thank the Dun & Day Committee, Tom Sattler, Senior Vice President at Equitable Bank, and Sister Edna Lonergan for arranging this chance to connect and make a real difference in our community. You can sign up at the registration table or links in some of the emails that should be in your inboxes. As we heard last week, we are on for our rescheduled Rained Out Scholarship Golf Classic. It is Monday, September 13th. The golfer slots are sold out at this point, but we are putting on a silent auction as part of that, which everybody, golfers and non-golfers alike, have the ability to join and bid on through the electronic bidding system. A lot of great stuff out there. We've got 2 tickets to the 2022 PGA Championship at Southern Hills in Tulsa, Oklahoma. $2,500 value on that is one of the auction items. Pickleball lessons for 6, fabulous wine basket, tickets to Marcus Center for the Performing Arts, the Symphony, the Milwaukee Rep, a lot of other items out there. We do appreciate donations of tickets, gift cards, or fun experiences. Those would all be greatly appreciated. We're also putting together a whiskey basket, which is quite in vogue these days. So we're asking for anybody who'd be interested to bring in a bottle of whiskey, $40 or above. Feel free to bring it to a meeting or drop it off at the Rotary office. And I'd like to just end that by saying there are still a couple additional sponsorship opportunities. Bloody Mary Bar is one example. So if you are interested, please talk to Mary, and she can take care of getting it all set up. Thanks to our approximately 60 members so far who have completed the like-minded assessment. That's a pretty good turnout. I think we're pretty excited about some of the opportunities that's going to create for us to connect. We are going to send out some of the first connections this week. If you have not already filled out the survey, you still have an opportunity to do so. You can click the link that comes in the email or contact the Rotary office. We'll be happy to set you up. But it's a great tool that we're going to have at our disposal and hopefully help to continue to make great connections throughout this group. One last note before we get to the program is if you look at the center of your table, there are the parking passes to be able to get out of the parking lot. Please grab one of those now, put it in your pocket so you don't forget and find yourself without the exit ticket after the program. And with that, please welcome Meg McKenna, Director of Partnerships at VISIT Milwaukee, to introduce our speaker.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Meg McKenna. I'm a fairly new Rotarian, especially with COVID and our not being able to meet each other as quickly as normal years. So I'm a little nervous to introduce my boss, Peggy Williams-Smith. She's the president and CEO of VISIT Milwaukee. I appreciate the invocation that was given a little bit earlier by Sister with the emphasis on true hospitality, because I'm so proud to work with Peggy, who embodies everything about not just hospitality as a whole. After 22 years with Marcus Hotel and Resort, she'll tell you more about her background in a minute, but particularly Milwaukee hospitality. Peggy is the perfect marriage of all of the heart of the open and welcome to all, to specifically Milwaukee and the way that we do things here, and why we're such a hospitable and warm, welcoming place to all visitors, no matter where they're coming from. So Peggy's been the CEO of VISIT Milwaukee during this COVID time. She started just a couple months before the pandemic hit, when the DNC was on, Ryder Cup. Milwaukee was about to have its biggest year ever, and it's not quite my honor, but it's definitely been a proud moment to serve and the team with Peggy. I know I speak for the rest of our team over at VISIT Milwaukee. We've been through some stuff this year. And we've done it sometimes at 7 o'clock in the morning, 6:30 in the morning with our hair up high and ponytails, virtually. We've all seen each other at our worst, physically speaking, as we conducted the business of responding to the urgency and the crisis in the hospitality industry. So there is no one, I think, is better suited, even though it wasn't the year that she wanted it to be, that we all wanted it to be, to have been serving as the lead of VISIT Milwaukee and the hospitality community this year, than someone who loves Milwaukee so deeply and wants and will lead us into recovery, and also who embodies hospitality in its highest form. So with that, I'd like to welcome my boss, Peggy Williams-Smith.
Thank you, Meg. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm thrilled to be able to share a little bit about myself with you, as well as a little bit about VISIT Milwaukee. But first, I want to say that it's so great to see so many of you here in person, and for those of you who are watching, thank you for being here as well. I was just told that someone from VISIT Baltimore is watching us. Her name is Maggie Carter, and she is with VISIT Baltimore. So hi, Maggie, if you're watching right now. For the last 18 months, I've done a lot of presentations, but they've been sitting at a desk where you could have my computer monitor in front of me and I could watch my notes, and none of you knew what I was wearing on the bottom. So this is new, to be in person, face-to-face with you and delivering some messages. I took the helm, as Meg said, at VISIT Milwaukee in November of 2019, and when I did, I was bursting with hope and excitement for all that 2020 was going to bring. This was definitely meant to be the year of Milwaukee. We were destined for big things with the DNC, the Ryder Cup, and a slate of other major conventions. And little did I know that our industry's hardest year was ahead of us, and that I would have to lay off nearly half of our staff only 4 months later, and our company would take on new challenges and new opportunities seemingly every single day. My time in hospitality started well before this, though, and I like to think that the values instilled in me from my time at different hotels, restaurants, bars, and venues very much helped me to embrace the last 17 months of constant pivots. I should start this by saying that I'm a Milwaukeean, like Meg said, to my core. I was born and raised here, and except for short stints in Chicago and LA, I have lived here my entire life. My dad was a steel salesman who used to let me help with his bids, and if he won, I would get a steak dinner from Corpers or Timmerman Field, home of the 32-ounce porterhouse. They used to actually have a restaurant at Timmerman Field. State Fair was an annual event with my mom and my aunt. My grandparents would give each of us kids $20 for rides, and we would go on carload days, and that was before seatbelts, where we'd all jump into a car, and we would spend the entire day and night ending with chicken at Adeline's Chicken Shack. My mom loved to gamble, and that is a trait that I, unfortunately, did actually get passed down to me, and Potawatomi definitely benefits from that now, as that's my way to decompress. As I got older, Summerfest was 11 days of hard work at the hotels that we worked at, and then a nighttime of fun going to the side stages to watch all the concerts. I'm so glad that those events were able to take place this year because they have helped with recovery in our city, so that's been wonderful to see. My first job in hospitality was at the age of 15, and it was in an Arby's, followed by stints at Ruby Tuesday and Sears, which led me to Muskego Lakes Country Club, where I was a beer cart girl, the girl who drove around in the beer cart serving beer to all the different golfers. I did get lost that first time, ended up on Highway 36. There were no cell phones, but I did make it back to the clubhouse eventually. Then I ended up as a banquet manager there, where I did weddings. Weddings, I heard about Dr. Scott, who got married in swim trunks and a bow tie. I did not have one of those weddings during my time at Muskego Lakes, but one of my jobs was to cutting the wedding cake in the kitchen. At the time, there were not as many rules as there are now. It was a big whipped cream cake. I could use my fingers and lick them and then go back to cutting it. That would not fly in COVID days, and that tells you how long ago that was. But my responsibilities eventually grew to include many more tools than a cake knife. And shortly after that, I realized I didn't want to work nights and weekends because that's what hospitality is, right? I left Muskego Lakes to work in HR, and I quickly realized I was not cut out for a 9-to-5 job. I took on 3 other jobs, bartending and waitressing at other places. And after receiving a call from my old boss who connected me to someone from Marcus Hotels and Resorts, I began my 22-year career with them. And I worked my way up the ladder from wedding planner to convention services manager, to director of catering, corporate director of catering, vice president of food and beverage, and then ending my tenure with Marcus Hotels and Resorts as a senior vice president of operations, where I led the Safe House restaurants and the growth of Safe House restaurants. In each of these roles at Marcus, I learned so much from my staff and my peers and company leaders, like Greg Marcus and former Rotary Person of the Year, Steve Marcus, who was instrumental in teaching me so much, especially about being involved in the community and that you do well by doing good. And this has helped me to weather the storm in the last year as we've navigated through a new normal for travel and tourism, and those skills came in handy. And although those skills came in handy, nothing could prepare me for the decimation the pandemic would cause our industry, which was affected at a much higher rate than any other industry. During my time with Marcus, I was a happy workaholic. My husband also worked for Marcus, and we used to joke that we had nothing living in our condo, no pets, no plants, no kids, nothing. We would go out to eat every single night because we worked in places that had restaurants, and we typically wouldn't get home till 9:30 or 10. But all that changed in 2016 when my 13-year-old niece came over for dinner one night and let me know that she was no longer safe living with her mother, my sister. Jocelyn never left after that night. Tim and I had to adjust to being parents and being responsible for something other than ourselves. As I reflect in the nearly last 6 years, and I know I'm going to get emotional, and that's why I didn't want to talk about it, but as I get ready to take her to college this weekend, because she is going to UWM, and she is going to be a social worker and live in the dorms, I reflect a lot about what I could have done differently, how I could have been prepared her differently, but then I know, even though I did many things wrong, I have faith in her resilience and her ability to take charge, and she is what I am most proud of. So, now, before I go to the next slide, I just want you to know that this picture is up there because I didn't want a headshot of me while I was talking to you, but I wanted to tell you a little bit about this picture. This is me and our board vice chair, Steve Boss, from the day when the entire Visit Milwaukee staff handed out 50,000 masks to Citgo stations across the city to be given out to anyone who needed one, and this was when PPE was in limited supply. As I mentioned, Visit Milwaukee's 2020 included far more masks, vaccination campaigns, blood drives, and virtual tours than we could ever have imagined. Now I'd like to tell you a little bit about Visit Milwaukee and how we affect the economic prosperity of our community in normal or somewhat normal years, because we're hoping to get back to those very soon. And to do that, I need to define what a destination organization is, because there's really no other public or private entity that compares to what it is that we do. Every community needs to compete with every other community for their share of the world's attention, customers, ideas, and investment. And this is the community need that a destination organization fills, and Visit Milwaukee has been doing that job for just over 54 years. Every day we use travel promotion as an instrument for short and long-term economic development for the greater Milwaukee area. My team, who are here today, both Claire and Meg, are skilled at thinking outside the box to engage our audience, and we consistently engage both planners and media to illustrate the best of our city and provide unmatched insight about our destination. Our only job is to sell and market the greater Milwaukee area. The Visit Milwaukee team is comprised of an extremely talented staff of 30 who came to their positions with deep experience in their roles. They're recognized in the industry and community as thought leaders, and they all have one thing in common. They have a fierce passion for the city and its success. We often get asked about our funding, so I thought I'd share a little bit about how that works. Destination marketing organizations do not operate to generate a profit. Instead, we operate as a service to the community and generate economic impact through travel. Visit Milwaukee receives a portion of hotel occupancy taxes from the City of Milwaukee, the County of Milwaukee, and the City of Wauwatosa. And we receive this money through our partners at the Wisconsin Center District. Marty and Steve are here today, and they are great partners. And we've had a relationship with the Wisconsin Center District since 1994. Remaining hospitality taxes, occupancy, food and beverage, and car rental are retained by the Wisconsin Center District to pay bond debt on convention facilities, the Miller High Life Theater, and to maintain the facilities with capital improvements. Other funding includes partnership dues, sponsorship, and other program service revenue. And Visit Milwaukee's financial operations are reviewed on an annual basis by both an audit and finance committee of our board of directors, as well as an outside audit firm. As you can see, the vast majority of our funding goes directly towards destination marketing. And like I mentioned, a portion of our revenue comes from partnerships, including those corporate partners who see the value in a thriving tourism economy. They're up on the screen right now, and these partners know what I hope all of you know, that if a community is a great place to live and work, then it's a great place to visit. The rest of our partners are comprised of businesses like these from all over the region. These are the businesses that make our area an amazing place not only to visit, but to live as well, and they all believe in our shared mission to bring economic vibrancy to the community through travel and tourism. Visit Milwaukee has always operated with a smaller budget than our peer cities, and while we work hard to ensure that we stretch each dollar and leverage internal resources as often as possible, our staff salaries are evaluated annually to confirm that they are in line with position and industry standards so that we can retain top talent while ensuring operating expenses remain conservative. We do a lot with the financial resources that we have and the staff available to us because we know that Milwaukee deserves nothing less. We gauge our success by looking at how our hotels have performed compared to those in peer cities. And according to STAR data, which is the measurement of our industry success, you can see that we do quite well. In 2017, Milwaukee hotels were 4th in average daily rate, which is what we call ADR, and 4th in revenue per available room night, which is what we call RevPAR. In 2018, we came in 5th in ADR and 4th in RevPAR, and then in 19, 3rd in RevPAR and 5th for both occupancy and ADR. And in 2020, which was of course terrible, we came in 3rd for ADR, and that happens with the lowest budget of all of our peer cities. We're really proud of the work that we do to fill these hotels with our partners, which is what I'm going to tell you about next. As a destination marketing organization, Visit Milwaukee plays the critical role in bringing meetings, events, and conventions to the Milwaukee area and specifically to the Wisconsin Center District. Due to the pandemic, my team's focus and strategy had to change just as much as any other company or organization had to. Our role of going out and finding new business had to change pretty quickly, and it turned into salvaging as much business as we possibly could into future years for Milwaukee. The team worked diligently with our hotel partners and Marty's team over at the Wisconsin Center District on moving, contracting, recontracting again, renegotiating again. And for some groups, we're continuing to do that to this day. As we look back through the storm we weathered, I do have to say that our team, along with the team, our hotel and hospitality community, came out stronger because of what we went through together. Our VP of Sales started in December of 2019 and looked at how our sales team was deployed out into the marketplace, and we reviewed the types of businesses and events Milwaukee were an ideal fit for and identified aspirational markets that we would like to penetrate as the Wisconsin Center expansion. We keep that in mind. Also, that we were in the midst of a pandemic, we also wanted to address the types of meetings and events that we thought were going to be the first to recover. And this meant redeploying the markets of our sales team so that we could win business and create new marketing plans for each of those segments. To date this year, our team has booked over 97,000 room nights in the middle of a pandemic, and that's not any of the rebooking for 2021 and beyond. In the last 3 years, our sales team has attended 100 trade shows, including a few virtual shows in 2020 and about 15 so far this year. We've coordinated 128 site visits for clients interested in Milwaukee, and we've sourced over 2,100 leads that we work hard to turn into definite business. And this comes out to about 77 sales leads per team member each year. And remember, it takes a long time to cultivate those relationships and get them interested in our destination. Now, once the sales team books business into the city, our event experience team takes over. It's their job to ensure all the other aspects of the attendees' time in our city is top-notch. This experience-obsessed team works hard to coordinate the hotel blocks, alerting neighborhood businesses to incoming guests. They work with local civic groups on beautification and signage, and they help to source transportation and off-site venues and so much more. In addition to bringing in meetings and events, we also work very hard to market the city as the best place for your next vacation. Leisure travel, which represents the largest segments of travelers coming into the market, is a key component to ensuring we have a strong tourism and hospitality economy. Prior to the pandemic, the economic impact of tourism in the greater Milwaukee area totaled a whopping $5.9 billion, with the majority of that driven by leisure travel. These incoming funds meant $389 million were generated in state and local taxes, helping to offset residents' personal tax bills by nearly $750. And 2019 saw a 3% increase over the 2018 numbers, and this increase is representative of the average annual increase in tourism dollars that we saw over the last decade. The importance of the leisure segment has never been more apparent than in the last year. With both business and convention travel halted, we clearly saw the adverse effects on our hotels, restaurants, retails, and services. Leisure was the only travel that was happening throughout the pandemic, and while it was a fraction of its former size, this helped keep the lights on at many local businesses, and it was the first and only segment that has returned to 2019 numbers, and it's the primary travel that we're going to see for the foreseeable future as events, like we said, and as Dr. Bob said, are beginning to postpone and cancel again due to the Delta variant. Visit Milwaukee's marketing and communications teams are the core of our leisure travel efforts. Through 2018 and 19 paid advertising campaigns, we generated 154 million paid impressions targeted at leisure travelers with 4.5 million visits to our website. Our leisure strategy focuses heavily on our 6-hour drive market, which sets us up very well for success coming out of the pandemic because we're within a 6-hour drive of 75% of the population. And we concentrate very heavily in Chicago as well as other cities in Wisconsin. And historically, we've had a strong presence in the summer months for promoting leisure travel. However, since the pandemic, we have started dedicated promotions to incentivize travel and overnight stays throughout the year. We also create collateral and travel resources used by visitors, like our award-winning visitors guide and our visitor map and the Brew City Beer Map, international brochures, wayfinding signage throughout downtown, and so much more. In the last 3 years, the PR team has had a hand in nearly 2,000 leisure media stories that generated 2.4 billion earned media impressions. And since 2015, our PR team has hosted over 900 travel writers. The PR team also does weekly TV appearances to encourage local audiences to support the hospitality community. And they've also bid on and won 4 prestigious media conferences for Milwaukee over the last 5 years, bringing esteemed writers and journalists to our city. And one of these conferences can generate hundreds of articles for years and years and years and help to establish longstanding relationships with media members from around the world. Even meeting planners notice the PR team's efforts that have generated headlines that you've probably seen in Vogue, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, CNN, and more. For the stories you're seeing, our PR team's assistants range from securing the interviews, providing background information, data, and recommendations, to fully hosting the writers that we saw here while they were in the city. As the Condé Nast Travel News Director told Claire earlier this week, Milwaukee is long overdue for more national coverage, so we can't wait to see what else the team produces this year and beyond. Like I said, as the vaccine rollout continues, Visit Milwaukee and Milwaukee are well positioned to capture and welcome returning leisure and group travelers. So the team has a strategic roadmap in place to accelerate the region's recovery, driving bookings and securing local business for the community. To support long lead bookings, Visit Milwaukee's new meetings and convention campaign positions Milwaukee as a bold, innovative, and experience-obsessed meeting destination. And in the last few months, Visit Milwaukee's sales team and I have resumed attending in-person trade shows and meetings with planners and face-to-face, and to promote the Wisconsin Center expansion. And I know you all heard from Marty a few weeks ago about that amazing $420 million expansion, and then to highlight all of the amazing attractions that our city has to offer. And this campaign is just the beginning of what a multi-million-dollar effort we are going to bring as we continue towards the expansion of that of the center. One of the many trade shows my team is attending this year is to promote is at Connect in Tampa next week, and we have a few of our hotel and venue partners coming along to generate excitement for Milwaukee. In fact, we're pulling out all the stops. We've got DJ Shauna from the Bucks, who's going to be leading our presentation, and we get to help introduce our keynote speaker, which is one of the most accomplished athletes of her time, Simone Biles. So we'll be in front of 1,000 meeting planners next week. In addition to marketing efforts like these, we've hired a national account executive who is DC-based. In Washington, D.C., where the largest percentage of association-based planners are located, which is going to give us better access to all of those meeting planners and ensure that Milwaukee has a consistent presence in the market. As the home of the MVP and national champions, Milwaukee is undoubtedly a sports destination. And we always knew that. The Bucks just helped put that on a national stage. To continue to capitalize on this reputation, Visit Milwaukee established Sports Milwaukee in 2020. And our goal with launching the sports brand is to bring even more major professional, amateur, and youth sporting events to the region. And this wasn't an accident. Sports-related events and travel are returning so much faster than other segments. In just the first 4 months of 2021, the groups that were booked by our sports commission generated over $8 million in economic impact for the city, including $1.9 million in restaurant spending and $2.1 million in lodging spending. The vast majority of Americans do plan to make a trip in the next 6 months, and to take advantage of this, the marketing team has rolled out a number of promotions and campaigns that drive short-term stays and encourage local spending, like Milwaukee Hotel Month, Giving Fest, the Ultimate Milwaukee Giveaway, and most recently with the launch of the Milwaukee Deals Pass, which is essentially a coupon book featuring deals and discounts for local businesses like yours that are now available for visitors and for locals alike. And as you can see, the meetings and convention campaign look is blended into some of our leisure marketing efforts, which are well underway and include not just traditional advertising, but influencer campaigns as well. I mentioned media conventions earlier, and this year when the PR team is going to host Society of American Travel Writers, one of the largest and most prestigious travel writer groups in North America. This conference combines professional development with a destination showcase, and the team is working day and night with over 100 local partners to showcase the best that Milwaukee has to offer. This annual convention can generate 31 million to 180 million impressions for host destinations and earned media in the years following the convention, and we anticipate similar strong results. Other recent destinations include Portland, Oregon, Juarez, Mexico, El Paso, Texas, Barbados, and Wenzhou, China. So Milwaukee is in great company. In addition to SATW, we're also greatly looking forward to the upcoming Ryder Cup, which we help bring here and is going to create $70 million in economic impact for our community. A lot of that happening right here in the greater Milwaukee area. With all the good news, though, we are cautiously optimistic. The Delta variant situation is casting a heavy shadow, according to a recent destination analyst's report that actually came out this morning. Despite 72.2% of American travelers saying they have received a COVID vaccine, 63% have a high degree of concern about personally contracting the coronavirus. So, well, as we're out there, we are making sure we have toolkits on our website that talk about how safe it is to be here in Milwaukee, to host a convention in Milwaukee, to just come here and hang out and go to a brewery or go see a Brewer game. We have a world-class baseball team that I don't want to jinx is on the way to bringing us another national championship. Although we are seeing some cracks with the Delta variant, we are seeing a commitment to travel, and 80% of American travelers currently have trip plans. 24.4% are planning to travel in September and 23.4% in October, and both November and December are currently above 20%, and that is a lot higher than we saw last year at this exact same time. So as an organization, this is why we continue to promote widespread vaccinations on top of our work to position the city as the best place to host a meeting or take a vacation. And like the rest of our industry, we are looking for brighter days ahead. So thank you, and I'll open it up if you have any questions. You can text any questions to 414-840-9623. Oh, yes. Well, they just welcomed a new CEO, and they just recently reopened the theater and the restaurants for in-person dining this past week. They are planning to open the table games again, but we don't have a time frame for that at this point. But you can go right now. You can cash those chips in, and they do have electronic dealers that are dealing blackjack and roulette. Yes?
As I live downtown, I see the convention, but I'm often really frustrated because I really like to know who's in town. And I think as a community, I think if people had a better idea of kinds of conventions and the kinds of groups that are in town, they would maybe proud. But see, just the whole convention industry would get a lot more positive feedback. Because I thought online and said, I don't know. It's kind of hard to find out what the Wisconsin Center on a particular weekend. And I think it would just be cool to know.
Absolutely, and that's part of what our... Oh, sure. She asked if there's a place where you can go to see what conventions are in town, because as right now she lives downtown and she sees a lot of travelers out and doesn't know who it is and how to address them and maybe thank them for their business is how I'm going to take that. Part of what our mission is moving forward is to do a better job of connecting with residents and making sure that residents know how important tourism is to the overall economy and making sure that you know the groups that are in town. I do know that when there are groups in town, and if they are using the convention center, it is listed on the convention center website. And we also have a section of upcoming groups that you can see on ours, but we'll do a better job of making sure that you can see that. Unfortunately, since I've been here, we haven't hosted that many groups because of the pandemic. We did have a group of 1,000. The Hmong Christian Conference was here at the beginning or the middle of July, but that's really the only big one we've had besides the sporting events. Yes.
What is the status of Milwaukee as a destination?
Well, that's exciting news. This year was supposed to be a record-setting year. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. You're right. I will look here. All right. What is our destination as a cruise or what is the future of Milwaukee as a cruise destination? So 2021 was supposed to be a record-breaking year. It was announced in 2020, the week before the pandemic hit, that Vikings was building 2 Great Lakes cruise ships that are going to be specifically cruising, and they're going to be porting and deporting out of Milwaukee. 2022 right now is slated to happen, and it will have over 14 cruises, I believe, that will come through Milwaukee and provide room nights as well as a lot of incremental spending in our restaurants, bars, and retail shops. Yes? That's a good question. I think, he asked, he's consistently disappointed to see that when people talk about Visit Milwaukee, they're saying that they're surprised, how pleasantly surprised they are. And I think part of it is a self-fulfilling prophecy of Milwaukeeans and our inability to brag about what a great city we are to begin with. I was once taught by a former boss that marketing is being considered great is how you market yourself. If we're constantly telling people how great we are, and this happened, when I was at the Safe House in Chicago, we opened with a burger that I thought was good. And my boss said, you need to market it as the best burger in Chicago. Every time you are interviewed, every time you do something, you need to say it's the best burger in Chicago. Now, I think you know that Chicago has a huge, amazing culinary scene. I said, every time I was interviewed, we have the best burger in Chicago, and then Chicago Magazine, like our Milwaukee magazine, named it the best burger in Chicago, tied with Au Cheval. So I think a lot of it is us saying what a great city we are. If we're out, if we're at conventions, if we're traveling, telling people how great we are is something that needs to be done by more than just Visit Milwaukee. Yes?
How much collaboration work the MMAC, the mayor's office, or the college's planning?
A lot. We work with all of our partners, both Marquette, UWM. We have many of the educational institutions who are partners with us. We meet with the MMAC on a regular basis. Obviously, the pandemic, we've worked with the mayor's office, the Department of Health on a weekly basis to see where we were and to see how we could safely reopen a lot of our attractions, our restaurants, our bars, our venues. So it's constantly working. It'll be interesting to see what happens as we come out of the pandemic because we haven't had those strategic conversations because since I've been here, we've been operating in an emergency. Yes? So that it was asked, how do we train our employees to make sure they have the highest knowledge of what Milwaukee has to offer? Oh, and in our bars, hotels, and restaurants. So we actually do training every year for our hospitality partners. This year we had, or in 2020, going into 2020, we had contracted with an outside vendor to come in and talk about not just to do the part of where we were going to teach people basic hospitality and then how we would teach people about Milwaukee. We do insider tourism training, and we do that in non-pandemic times, probably once a month. And we bring people in, we do bus tours, we take key stakeholders, people who are influential in the community on those bus tours to show all that Milwaukee has to offer from a tourism perspective. Yes. So the question was, how do we parlay the Bucks and the Deer District into more tourism? And I think that that's part of why we're using DJ Shauna when we're at Connect in front of 1,800 meeting planners. I was in Baltimore during game 3, the first one we won of the finals series. And I have to tell you, being around my peers from all over the country and watching the Deer District, and people are like, where is that? What is that? How can you handle that many people? Was absolutely incredible. And our team is capitalizing on that in every situation that we can. And the forming of the Sports Commission, in which we have partners from all over the city, including the Bucks on that Sports Commission, will help us to really capitalize on exactly everything that happened. And we're hoping with the Brewers Championship, we can do even more of that.
Milwaukee native, I just want to thank you for the work that you and your team do, and please carry on these challenges. I am always, when I'm out traveling, I always like to talk about the city Milwaukee is, and that I always got to know. My question is, I'm curious, as you were talking before about perceptions of Milwaukee is one of the stats that we also have in our city, unfortunately, that we're really several people. And I'm wondering, I'm wondering what kind of the rise of focus on Black-owned businesses, Latino-owned businesses, if there's any plans to celebrate that or make that part of Visit Milwaukee.
Well, we already do make that part of Visit Milwaukee, and we actually just completely revised our partnership benefits so that we could make sure that we were being more inclusive for businesses everywhere. We just recently signed up with a new research company called Tourism Economics. And one of the first things they do is they ask for specific areas where we think tourism would happen, and they can follow pings on cell phones to see what generates the most tourism. And having only looked at it because we just got the first peek at the dashboard, the Bronzeville neighborhood is one of the top tourist destinations with out-of-town cell phone pings that we've seen consistently going back over the last 3 or 4 months. So, we meet with partners on a regular basis. We have a long-standing diversity and inclusion committee made up of diverse leaders throughout the entire city that represent all different types of businesses that we work with to make sure that we're promoting, and that we are promoting in a way that works, because we want all of that. We want to be a better place, but we also want that spending, because there's a huge portion that we miss out on if we're not highlighting those neighborhoods that sometimes get looked over. Sorry. Thank you.
Peggy, on behalf of the Rotary Club of Milwaukee, I'd like to thank you and Visit Milwaukee for all you do for our city, for the businesses in the city. And I know as Milwaukeeans, we love our city and really appreciate the opportunity to tell the world about who we are and what we do. So thank you for that. In honors of leaders like you coming and speaking to our club, we're going to make a donation in your name to the YWCA of Southeastern Wisconsin, whose mission is eliminating racism, empowering women, and promoting peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. Please join us next Tuesday for our speaker, Glenn Reed, President and CEO of Marathon Machines, to talk about startup capital in Milwaukee and offer an important perspective on assessing risk. A couple quick reminders. The next Beer Connector Group meeting is tonight at Furch's Craft House in Wauwatosa. Sign up to pitch in at St. Anne's on your way out or online, and consider donating a good bottle of whiskey or another present for the Scholarship Golf Classic silent auction, or bidding online for anything up to and including a pair of PGA tickets next May in Tulsa. Thank you, everybody. Let's go out and do some good in the world. This meeting is adjourned.